Okay, we'll start now with Will Shea. Will, go ahead.
Hey, Dino, how you doing?
Hey, Will.
My question was, could you expand more on the pods that you guys have been using while training so far? Is it more cardio and weight room? Is it more on the field training? And what players exactly are in each pods?
Well, first of all, the pod is all based off of the safety restrictions that we've agreed to, so the state could allow us to come back and start this training. So basically, the pod is a bedroom. The 4 guys that you live with, they're part of your pod. And instead of moving around in positional groups and stuff like that, you're moving around in pod groups. So you'll come to the facility, you will shower as a pod, you'll lift weights as a pod, you'll run as a pod, you'll eat as a pod, and then you'll leave the facility as a pod. And then as time goes on and we've put some days in where they make sure that people aren't carrying COVID-19, those pods can start to grow based off of what the governor and the state of New York allows us to do.
Just a quick follow-up. With those pods, has it been more with each of those players in the weight room and cardio-wise, or has it been more on the field training so far?
Well, really, we're really not doing any football-type stuff training. We're talking about weights and lifting. So yeah, they'll go on the field and run in those pods. No group will be bigger than 10 people. So you can put 2 pods to run at the same time. And then remember, when you're outside, there's more room for spatial distancing, and with the air and all that kind of stuff, it's a better situation as far as bringing people and making sure that no one gives someone else COVID-19.
Got it. Thanks so much, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we'll go to Nico Tamurian from CNY Central.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Aloha, Nico. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Great to see, even if it's over the screen here.
Hey, you've got a nice backyard. I've been watching you guys, your wife's presentations with the dogs back there. You guys got a nice backyard back there.
I appreciate it. I'm actually on vacation right now. I've been trying to work on it just for you guys. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. My question is regarding the statement you put out yesterday and how important it was for you to do that, but also what it means to you to have your words uplift, obviously our country, but especially our Central New York community at a time that, everybody's hurting right now.
Nico, that was hard for me to do. I've never done anything like that in 34 years. It's not because I didn't want to. It's just something that I'd never wanted to be identified. When I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, there's a black man staring back at him. I get that. I get what I'm identified with. But my big thing is I always wanted to be just recognized as a coach. And I felt that as long as I had that philosophy first, that I could pave the way for other people to have the opportunity that I have to be a head football coach at the highest level and to stay focused and locked into those things. I don't want to be sidetracked. I'm not smart enough to be multitasking in a bunch of different areas while I'm trying to run a football team. So for me to do that was something I've never done before. But when I had a mini Zoom call with the football team and I started to hear all the young men talk to me and express things to me, young men that I love, they're my stepsons to me, and how important it was for them that I get out there and say something. They brought me to tears. And it's hard to let family down. And I told them once I realized how they felt about it, it wasn't that it hadn't been written, it just hadn't been released. I was like, I'll release it as soon as I can. Now, the one thing that I will say before anybody asks me any more questions, it was a baby Zoom call on some of the topics that are out there across the country. And we haven't had an opportunity as a team to finish what we started on that call. And I'm going to be very reserved on questions on those topics if I haven't been able to cover that with the team.
Thank you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Mike McAllister from 247sports.com.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you? Mike, I can't see you.
Is my video on? Hold on.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
I wanted to ask you about recruiting. Obviously, it's a completely different cycle than what is considered normal. How is the staff approaching the rest of the recruiting cycle? Are you anticipating visits are going to resume again, or are you approaching it as if there won't be any on-campus visits? And either way, how does that impact the way that you're approaching?
It's a fantastic question, Mike. The answer to the question is the latter of your statement. I'm anticipating that it will not change. I'm anticipating that we won't be able to bring young men from all across the country to campus, once again, because of the social issues with COVID-19, and that we're going to have to continue in the same direction that we've headed so far. It's totally different. It kind of goes back to old school where you got to watch tape, call high school coaches, call people in areas that may have seen these young men play to get the best evaluation of them on the field as you can, since you're not getting an opportunity to see them in camps and combines, to make the best decision you can on people that you want to bring in here early. Now, hopefully there's a high school season and you get a second season of getting evaluations on the field for the back half of your class. But for the first half of our class, that's how we went about our work. We feel good about it. And it's, the proof is always in the pudding later, but I'd say right now we feel really good about where we're at in the recruiting department.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Mike.
Next, we'll go to Josh St. Croix from the Watertown Daily Times. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Coach. Just wanted to ask you a little bit about, I know you were able to do some things with Zoom here in the meantime these last couple of months. One of the things I saw, you're having a lot of meetings with some former players. Just wondering if there are a few main things that you wanted the guys to take away from those meetings, and was there any one particular, player or maybe a few that really stood out to you?
First of all, let me answer it this way. We have fantastic alumni here. We have a great tradition of not only college football players, but National Football League players, and almost all of them have their degrees, and they're letting their Syracuse degrees work for them after they get done playing in the National Football League. And I've always wanted to make that bridge back to the alumni and get them back on campus, but I want to make sure that we had raked the rocks off the grass, fertilized the yard, watered it down. I wanted to make sure they were talking to the right people. And I wanted to make sure that the team they were speaking to was ready to listen about their journey and not just hear them and come and go in one ear and out the other. And I really think that going into our 5th year, this is where our family's at, our La Familia is at, that they're ready to listen to some of these great alumni that has fantastic stories on not only how to become a professional football player, not only how to take their Syracuse degree and make more money or provide more for their family, but also how to make them better men. And it was exciting. We had numerous guys, you can look it up. The really cool thing, I'll tell you, this is kind of how I operate. The guys would talk for about 20 minutes on 2 or 3 different topics because we wanted to keep it small and we wanted it to be effective. And then literally you can ask the players, you can ask the speakers. I mean, there was another 20 to 40 minutes of conversation where I just took my computer and shut it down and left the room and let them speak for the team for 20 to 40 minutes. And I have no clue what they said. I was not online, but they're family. And whatever they said, I think the team is mature enough to sift through the stuff that fits them, that's good, and the stuff that may be bad. But I wanted it to be real. As the young people say nowadays, I wanted them to keep it 100. I want to make sure my terms are crossing the bridges of generation gaps there. And I wanted them to get something out of it. So, we had Chandler Jones and Justin Pugh, and I'm going to miss somebody else. We had a bunch of guys now, and they're going to get mad because I didn't say all their names. But they did a really nice job, and it's something that we want to continue. We really do. I think that it's time to bridge the past to the present. And we've got a fantastic past, and they can help us with our journey here in Syracuse, not only on the football team, but in the community and the city as well.
Next, we'll go to Tommy Sladek.
Hey, Coach Babers, good morning. I'm hoping the iced coffee is nearby for you.
Hey, I thought my iced coffee or your iced coffee?
I'm rolling with the hot this morning, but I'm feeling the ice, and I'm just getting a little jealous thinking about it.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I just had a big old glass, brother. I got my hair standing up on my arms. I'm ready to run through a wall for you. Let's go. I'll tell you what, you've been to the barbers a couple of times because your hair is not looking the way mine was looking now. You're sharp.
This was just this morning, man. I swear there was a 3-month gap where it was like, it was a mop up here. Wasn't pretty.
All right.
But Coach, in your statement yesterday, there was a line that really stuck out to me when you talked about the community to take action, and that was there's a difference between hearing and listening. Can you talk about what you mean by that?
You know, when you hear something, it definitely goes in your ear, but it can also go right out the other ear and not process in the stuff that's in between the two ears, okay? When you listen to something, it goes into an ear, and then you think, there's thought, there's meditation, there's process. And there's a very good chance that it doesn't go out the other ear, that it stays with you. It's a residue that sticks on you, that you can pull from, you can draw from for experience or strength. So I'm really big on, if you're going to talk, if I'm going to speak, I'd rather people listen. Everybody wants to be, watch this. Everybody says they want to be heard, but I want to be listened to. To me, there's a difference. Look it up. Maybe there's not a difference in the dictionary. Maybe there is, but to me, I feel like there is.
Coach, thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
Next, we'll go to Corey Spector from WAER. Corey, you're up.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm hanging in. Obviously, Coach, the past 3 months, it's been a difficult situation. But as you've used the technology, aside from those alumni Zoom calls, what have been some of the more positive things or the advantages of this time period as you prepare your football team for the 2020 season?
Corey, you're not going to like anything I've got to say about Zoom or preparing my football team in a pandemic Zoom era. First of all, I wouldn't even be on here if it wasn't for my video guys, Austin Beener, Katie Berardi, Mike Morrison. I've got some people that work around me that just from a visual audio technology standpoint keep me in step with the young generation. Without those guys, I wouldn't be on this thing at all. But I do believe there was some advantages. And I thought that the coaches did a nice job of trying to get the information from the classroom to them. You could cover a great amount of topics. But Corey, I really don't like this venue to deliver information. I think it's a venue that people can just hear and not necessarily listen. I think there's something about being in a room with somebody and being able to feel them. I think there's a huge advantage to reading people's body language. I think no matter what people say with their lips moving or they don't say with their lips closed, I think their body language can tell you everything that you need to know. So that is the venue that I prefer. It's also the one that I grew up in. So I can't remember. It's something where you say, wherever you're good at, make sure you do it. Whatever you're not good at, don't do that. So you got me on my heels a little bit on these Zoom calls. I'd much rather be right in your room, right in your basement, right in your living room, talking to you one-on-one. And I wouldn't have any fear of that at all. That would be very, very natural to me, but that's the way I was raised. That's the way I came up. So I think this is what I think about Zoom. This is what I think about the young millennials. This is what I think about technology. I think it's really cool that you can call somebody and look at them. That's about it.
Thanks,
I really don't like talking on the phone. I'd rather talk in person, but if I got to talk on the phone and you can look at somebody, I think that's cool. That's about all I do with my phone, even though it can do all these other things.
Totally agree. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Corey.
Next, we'll go to Mark Larson, Spectrum News. Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning, Coach. How are you? So many questions I would like to ask you, including best movie or Netflix show you've seen during the COVID, but we can cover that later probably. Let's stick to the point. Kind of piggybacking a little bit off the previous question, I just wonder what you think is the biggest challenge or how big a challenge you think it is to prepare a football team for a season with all the restrictions and everything that you're going to have to follow over the next couple of months.
Well, the best Netflix movie has been All American. Is that Netflix or is that Hulu? I can't,
Netflix.
HBO, I can't figure out, but All American was really good, which is a great story because I actually recruited that kid at Beverly Hills High School. Fantastic young man. But back to your deal, we've never gone through anything like this before, Mark. And I don't know. I think back to Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood. This is going to be an adjust and improvise type situation. I literally don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. And I literally, I can't look into the future and say, well, if we do this and this, we're going to be like this. There's nothing to pull. There's no history. There's no knowledge to pull from. And now this is strictly a gut situation. We don't even have a long enough period to work on the basic fundamentals since you lost 12 practices in spring to make what I would call good, fair evaluations on people. So I'd imagine that the early part of the season will be, unless you've got somebody really good in front of you that everybody knows is good, I can see the early part of the season. When I say early part, I mean anywhere from 0 to 4 games, 0 to 5 games, where there's a lot of people playing because you just don't know who the starter is. And if you don't know who the starter is, it's not fair not to play the other guy. And I mean, that's just how I'm wired. So I see a lot of people playing at positions where you don't know who the best guy is until they play themselves in or out of a position. Now they have to be worthy and they have to be big enough, and strong enough and mentally right. But that's what I see. I see more people playing early than we've ever had before.
Thank you, Dino.
I hope that kind of answered your question.
It answered both of them. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Christian de Guzman. Christian?
Hey, Dino, how you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, Christian?
Good, good. I'm glad to see you and glad to see everyone here. I want to just piggyback off of Mark's point about how hard it is to decide, like what you said, how to decide who's going to be starting in your eventual roster as the season progresses. And along those same lines, you have 2 new coordinators on both sides of the ball. So how hard has it been to implement those new philosophies into your team? And how have you seen the team, if at all, start to hold on to the philosophies those coordinators are introducing?
Well, I think I can answer the first one. I'm not sure I can answer the second one, Christian. The pandemic and the Zoom situation, the Zoom era, let's call it the Zoom era. The Zoom era has actually kind of helped in getting the young men to know the new systems on paper. So they've had sit-down situations, they've had relaxed time, they didn't have to study, they didn't have the distractions of the social things that are done with college kids in their nightlife. And I think that they may come out of it stronger than ever before, a real sense of what they're supposed to do mentally, which would be a positive. The flip side of that is that it's not a situation where they've actually done the act over and over again. 21 days to form a habit. You want to do something so many times that you get to the point of where you get the art of knowing without knowing, where you don't have to think about it, you just do it. When you ask somebody, why did you do that? And they go, I don't know. And they were absolutely correct. That's the highest form of learning there is for an athlete. So we don't have the practice time to get to some of those things, and we're going to have to see. But from the knowledge of knowing what to do, maybe not how to do it physically, I think that we're probably overall on a football team, we're at a huge advantage. And then from them just knowing the OC and DC, they only got 3 days in is spring practice. And those weren't real practices. Those were shorts. So I don't think they have a fantastic feel for what these 2 coordinators are going to bring to the game. Now, I do. And I think that both sides really like the people that are in front of them because they've been smiling and they've been nice. But I'll go back to the movie Roadhouse. We'll be nice and we'll be nice until it's time not to be nice. And I think both of these coordinators have enough, that they can get these young men going and get us headed in the right direction.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Christian.
Next, we'll go to Matt Gutierrez from The Athletic.
Hey, good morning, Dino. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Matthew.
Great. Wanted to just touch base
Matthew,
on.
Matthew, you have no camera. Is that what that giant line is going left to right at a 45-degree angle?
Looks like it. My tech savviness not great on the computer right now, but we can hear, right? So just wanted to touch base on the testing a little bit more. Wanted to see if you could just provide insight on how often players will be tested, and if they're tested, what sorts of protocols they may go through after that.
Say it one more time, Matthew. I'm sorry,
Sure.
please.
How often players will be tested, and what sorts of protocols they'll go through if they do test positive?
Okay, Matthew, some of this stuff is like public knowledge and some's not. And anytime you're dealing with stuff that's outside the football program, this is all ran by the state and Governor Como, and it comes from him, and it goes to our medical people in this area, and then it comes to us. So this stuff is subject to change based off of results, because again, no one's been through a pandemic like this before. So you have to be flexible, and you got to be able to bend like an REED in the wind, because if not, they'll shut us down and life won't be great. But what I can tell you is this: everybody that steps on campus will be tested. Once they're tested, if they're negative, then they'll be going to a situation of where they have isolation time, just locked into their pod, which is a pod of 4. And when they pass that test and we go through that period that the medical people feel is okay, then we may be allowed to increase our pods bigger than 4 or 10 and go on to the next step, but maybe meeting guys as position groups, or maybe be able to meet as an offense and a defense. So a lot of this stuff is still out of our control. So for me to even talk about it wouldn't make it accurate. And a lot of it is based off of how many positives and how many negatives that we have when the test results come back. Now, I can tell you this, that if someone tests as positive, that they have a course of action ready to go with our medical professionals and the hospitals and stuff that are in the area. But again, most of the young men, especially football players in the age group that they're in, if they test positive, most likely they're going to be standing upright, sitting in their room, waiting for 14 days to go by. The issue is guys that are older like me and some of the other guys on the staff, that if we get it, we could be on our backs in a hospital. So I think it's really important that we find out if the players have it, but it's also to protect all the elderly gentlemen and young ladies that work around the campus and works with the football team to keep us standing upright. I think that's about the best I can do for you on that one, Matthew.
Thank you. Just to follow up real quick to your latter point there, how often will the coaching staff be tested? Will there be follow-up tests to your latter point that you are at greater risk?
We will be tested, and if the test results are not correct, we'll get tested again. We'll have the ability to test anybody at any time. We'll be taking daily temperatures to make sure there's no fluctuation. If those temperatures go up, it's a red light to us to separate that individual or that pod from everybody else, and to go into deeper testing or retesting with that group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Sorry, I skipped Mario in the order. So Mario, we're going to go back to you. Mario, News Channel 9, you're up.
Hi, Coach. Not the first time someone skipped me. Over the last couple of days, I've been interviewing Black athletes, and I don't mean to hamper on your statement, but I'm doing a piece of In Their Shoes and the conversations that they've had with their parents growing up and what those conversations have been like. Being a father and being that you have son-in-laws, what are those conversations that you had with your daughters growing up, and what are the conversations that you have now with them and your son-in-laws?
Well, now, Mario, I'm private, man. The most public thing I've done is put out that statement. That statement that I put out covers a big part of that question of some of the talks that that my dad and my mom had with me, and that that I've had with some of my daughters. But it's different being an African American female than it is being an African American male. It's just different, and those talks are a little bit different. The thing that I really cherished, which I'm not going to share, is the talks that I had with my 2 son-in-laws, with my 4 daughters on the same Zoom call, and just letting them know because I didn't have a male son, that if you have a male son, that there's one situation, there's another situation based off of the genealogy of things that could happen to him. And since both my son-in-laws are white, they needed to acquire the knowledge to be able to make sure that they keep their family safe. And what they do with the knowledge is them. But if they hadn't heard it and they hadn't read it anywhere, I was going to make sure that I touched them with it so that they'd have the knowledge to make the best call, Mario.
Was there ever a time growing up that you feared, had any problems?
I'll tell you what, this is what I'll say. Are you on Facebook, Mario?
I am, sir.
There is my college roommate. His name is Dwayne Coleman. Okay, he's my college roommate. He is on Facebook, and he has put out a series of stories of his life. And I got about 4 hours sleep for this press conference because he sent his stories to me and had me read them. Now, some of the stories I knew because we were roommates. Some of the stories I did not know. But I would say that I could almost identify with 90% of the stories personally that he put out on Facebook. Just change the names, change the cities, same story. So if you want to get a feel for me with me not wanting to tell you exactly what in the heck happened, I say go to Facebook, they're public stories, read them, and I would say that they're almost identical stories to things that have happened to me in my life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Next, we'll go to Stephen Bailey from Syracuse.com. Stephen?
Hey, Dino. I wanted to go back to the conversation you had with your team before you put out your statement. You said they brought you to tears. What was kind of the impetus for that conversation? Did it come up in a team meeting? Was it something players wanted to talk to you about? And can you, go into a little more detail on what they said to you?
Well, Stephen, first of all, I love the beard, brah.
Thank you.
Reminds me of a earlier Hercules movie. Okay. You got that strength coming from you. I'm not going to tell you the question. Okay. You knew that when you asked, though. That's not new, 2020. But, when those guys, and here's the thing, we haven't had our second conversation. Like I said, it was like a baby Zoom call. It lasted a while, but it really didn't. It went right up to the edge. They went over the edge on some things that, when I say over the edge, it was good. It's kind of like, if you're really going to talk about this stuff, I look at it like it's a scab. If you really want to talk about it, you got to peel the scab off. And then you got to take something and you got to rub where there's no wound and create a wound. And that scab needs to start bleeding. And when it bleeds and you talk about it, there's a chance that it can heal the right way. And, they made me bleed on some stuff, but that was good because you're either green and growing or you're red and rotten. And they opened my eyes to some things that I had not thought about, and it had to do with the generation gap. And it had to do with them seeing things at a younger age. I saw the same things, but again, they were raised differently than the way I was raised. And it hurt me that they felt that way. It really hurt me, which really pushed me to do something faster than what I wanted to do. Now, I haven't had a chance, again, to finish that call, which is the reason I'm being really reserved on answering those questions. Because if I've gone through all this pain and criticism to wait to speak to them, I'll be doggone, I'm not going to jump ship now and just make it easy. No. I'm going to finish the job, and then whatever happens after that happens. But I thought it was good. I thought if there's 10 points to this conversation, we're at 3. We still got a long way to go, but it was a good opener, and I'm really excited to get back with them because they were talking and I was listening. That was the biggest part of the call. And when they get back here, after they finish talking and I'm still listening, then I get to talk. And I know they will listen. And afterwards, hopefully, we're all stronger. As iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another.
I appreciate that. To follow up, it's clear college football players across the country are trying to use their platforms. I think I saw Clemson's doing a player-led protest. I'm sure the guys in your locker room have ways in which they want to make their views known and express themselves. How much time have you spent thinking about that? And, you know, what kind of approach do you take to balancing giving guidance while also, you know, letting them use that platform and that freedom that they have to share their views?
Well, first of all, John Walhack has already allowed everybody in the athletic department to be able to express themselves. So it doesn't, opinions don't matter whether you can or you can't. And again, it's a constitutional right.
Sure.
You know, being on the football team is a privilege. Being able to speak your mind in the United States of America is a constitutional right given by our forefathers. So I don't think you can take that away from somebody. Now, all that other stuff being said, our guys, the word I would use is energized. They are energized, and they want to make a difference. My job as the grandfather of the group is to give them the knowledge, and when all this energy is done, I want there to be some action taken that bears fruit, where you can go back and say, hey, I was a part of that and we got this done. Not that we protested and 40 years later, while I'm gone and Stephen and no one's giving me any Zoom telephone calls where I'm at, that they're still here and they look back and say they didn't get it done. You know, I think that our generation didn't get it done. Okay. Our parents were born in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, and we got it moving, but we really didn't get it done. But I think that with the energy of these young people, you being included in that, Stephen, okay, you young people, and with the generation of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s being the older people, on top of all that energy, I really believe that they've got a chance, just a chance, you know, to get it done. I'm really excited about what they could do, and I'm with them. If they can pull it off, you know, it'll be a bigger win than Syracuse ever was against Clemson, and I'll be more prouder of it. I'm gonna put your feet to a fire a little bit though, because I look around and it's amazing to me. I look for people to, you know, okay, speak out, and everybody doesn't have to speak out. But the thing that really is interesting to me is when I look up media people that you guys, I don't see statements. And you guys have a platform too. And you guys have a following, and you guys got people that want to know what you think. And I don't know, I'm talking out of my ear a little bit. I don't know if your job allows you to do that. And if they don't, I get it. You got to pay the bills, and that's what you should do. But if they do allow it, it'd be really cool. And I'm not talking directly at you. I'm talking about all media people. And maybe it's because I look around so many of them, I look to see what they said, and I don't hear anything, which is probably job related, but I just don't like to assume things. I like to know the facts of stuff. So if you know the answer, shoot me a text or something. All right.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Dino.
you, Stephen.
Thanks, Dino. Media is an institution. You're not wrong about that.
Okay. I feel you, brother. I feel you.
Next, we'll go to Adam Hillman from the Daily Orange. Adam.
Hey, Coach. How's it going?
Hey, Adam.
So obviously we don't know how many fans will be in the stands in the fall, but, you know, assuming that there's going to be far fewer fans, what type of challenges does that create, and how do you prepare for that?
You know, I think it's going to be okay. Well, if we have fewer fans, I think it'll be great. I know that the administration and the public health officials will make sure that we have social distancing and all that kind of stuff. You know, here's my thing. It's going to be, we're like the 300, you know, that movie 300 right there, trying to keep the entire army out because we got them all wedged into that small area, that small group, and we can make a lot of noise. And social distancing, which we're going to have to do to be able to play the season, is going to probably eliminate a huge advantage for us, especially if we're sitting 1/3 filled, you know, in the dome. So my thing is, whoever the parents, the people in the community, the first responders that are able to get those tickets, they need to get a good night's sleep and drink whatever iced coffee they can get coming to the doggone dome, because we need them to be 3 times as loud so that we can keep the advantage that we have there because it is a huge advantage. And we're going to need them this year, and we're going to appreciate every voice that's lost in the process of the first quarter to the fourth quarter to help us win a football game.
And just as a quick follow-up, one thing that they're considering in some European soccer leagues is that they've been restarting recently is their piping and crowd noise. Is that something you guys are looking at, or is that not really on the table?
I don't know if, in this, again, I don't even know if that's legal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not usually
Seriously,
legal.
in a college
Correct.
game. I don't know if it's legal to pump in crowd noise. So it'll be very interesting. I know this, it's illegal for the band to play when our offense is going up to the ball. So if it's illegal for the band to play, which is not fake noise, I would be very surprised if they pumped in crowd noise and they were able to turn it up and turn it down when they want to. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather not have that. But of course, I don't run the ESPN and all the TV stations. I'm sure they're going to do whatever they need to do to make it interesting for the fans out there, the viewing fans out there watching.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Adam.
Next, we'll go to Brad Bierman from the Juice. Brad.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, Coach Babers from suburban Philadelphia. How are you?
I am well, Brad. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Bright and sunny through that window behind you.
Yeah, actually, it's gray, though, but I like this setup here. I have a very bright office here at home.
Yes, sir.
From the Time Flies By department, entering your 5th season as head coach at Syracuse, first head coach since Paul Pasqualone to enter a 5th season. So that talks about stability. We've talked about the recruiting earlier and where that's going, new offensive and defensive coordinators. In the 4 years so far, you've had big upsets over Clemson, made a lot of national attention, got a lot of awareness for the program. Where kind of now is the state of the program as you enter your 5th season?
I think we're right in the middle. I mean, even though the record doesn't indicate that, I think where we are as a program is right in the middle. I think obviously that we can go either way. Now, I'm a positive thinker. I think that we're on the right track. I think we reloaded the correct way. I think that it's going to all end up okay. But if you're going to be objective, I would say that we're somewhere in the middle. I don't think we're where we want to be, nor do I think it's where we started. Even though the record may not, I do not believe that's where I walked in at. But we'll see. We understand the bottom line is the bottom line. And I'm at peace where we're at right here. It's a difficult job. And you just put a little fear in me. That's hard to do now. That's hard to do. You put a little fear in me. You said I'm what coach going into 5 years? Where am I at on that list?
No coach has been at 5 years since Paul Pasqualone, going into the 5th season at Syracuse. Because Greg Robinson was 4 years, Doug Marrone was 4 years, Scott Schaefer was 3 seasons.
You keep talking like that, I'm going to put something else in my coffee.
But no, that talks about consistency, and consistency is about winning, right? Look at Jim Boeheim, look at John Desko, look at Paul Pasqualone in his tenure, even Coach Mack in the last half of his tenure, right?
So, Brad, now you're trying to make me feel good. Okay.
Yeah, you're right on track, Coach. Right, Coach Mack, 7 years, right? You're at 5 years. So.
All right, I'm going to remember that one. That stat wasn't in my head. I've got it now. I've acquired some knowledge on that. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, just to give you an idea, we got 4 more. First up is Anthony DeBundo from the Daily Orange.
Hey, Dino. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, Anthony. Nice guitar, brah.
Yeah, it's not mine. I'm not a music guy. My stepdad is. Also from suburban Philadelphia. Shout out to Brad. But my question is, and this is piggybacking a little bit off of what Steven was asking. You want your players to use their voice and to use their right to protest. And we saw yesterday that Ron Rivera is encouraging any of his players that want to kneel during the national anthem to do so. Would you also support any of your players who kneel for the national anthem to protest police brutality and systemic racism?
Now, here's the thing, Anthony. Again, this is something that we want to talk about as a team, and we had an opportunity to talk about it. But one thing I will tell you this, I'm going to always support my players. I'm going to always support my sons. And as a constitutional right, they can do basically whatever the Constitution allows them to do. But they also got to understand that they're also part of a football team. And we need to stay together and not be separated apart. So we're going to get together and we'll talk about, I'm sure they're going to talk about all those things. I just rather talk to them before anything is said out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Brent Axe from Syracuse.com.
Morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. I feel like I'm on the cutting edge of the day.
That is my question. What lessons from that movie have you applied? No, I'm kidding. But you brought up another movie, Heartbreak Ridge, and the innovations and just having to adjust on the fly here. I mean, all things considered, has this been your most challenging off season as a coach and just the constant adjustments you've had to make?
You know, I'm going to answer your question. I really feel like, where did Brent go? Okay. Brent, I just lost you. Now I see you. Brent, I really feel like this is right up my alley. As much as I like fundamentals, as much as I like discipline, as much as I was raised military by a military dad, structure, do not bend, rigid. I think I operate well when you have to adjust and improvise. I'm wired that way, you know. And I think that we, let's talk about our family and our philosophy, maybe is a little bit more flexible than some other teams in our conference in being able to adjust to this situation. I think one of the advantages that we had is that even though our football department staff is smaller than a lot of the other staffs, and I'll just talk about the ACC Atlantic, is that the other staffs haven't been able to use all those quality control guys that are ex-head coaches and NFL guys and these huge payrolls they have for all these extra coaches to do things. And when you're going to say, well, they've been able to sit at home and break you down. Yeah, they sat at home and broke down an offensive coordinator that's not here or is here in a different role, and a defensive coordinator that's not here. So their breakdowns are useless. They have to wait until we come out. Now, the disadvantage is that we haven't had a spring practice to practice those things. But if we would have practiced them in spring practice, they would have definitely got information on us, because that's how college football is, and they'd have been able to do summer breakdowns. By this pandemic, they've gotten nothing on us. The disadvantage is we don't get to practice it as much, but there's an advantage in that they really don't know what we're going to do. So I look at it as, you know, like a trade-off, and I'm not so sure I don't like the trade-off. But that's from the mental part of it and the coaching part of it. The basics, the fundamentals, those are the things that we've got to get back on when we're able to get back out there with the players. And it's going to be really important that we keep the details finite, that everybody's working on the little things so that we can have an opportunity to let the big things take care of themselves.
And that's my follow-up, Coach. You know, when you are allowed to get out there and do some real football reps, I mean, you're a team that generally goes fast in practice anyway. But how do you prioritize those reps given all the time that you've missed so far?
It's going to be different, Brent. I can't give you an answer, and I'm not trying to avoid it. You know, my first thing was, let's go out fast, and we'll be faster than everybody else, and everybody else who's not in great conditioning will die. That's your first thought. But you go out fast and you're not executing the techniques and the fundamentals of what spring ball gives you, and now you're just being messy out there. You know, you're painting, but nothing looks right. And the paint's every doggone. It's on the floor, it's on the basin, it's on the walls, it's all over the doggone place. And it's a messy paint job. So you really gotta. That's my conflict of being a little bit out there. Let's be on the cutting edge of things, okay? Or coming back, that military part of me, and going, we're gonna do this. It's left, right, left, about, face. The structure of things, and that's where the balance is going to come in with the coaches. And I don't have an answer for you. It's going to really depend on where the players are when you step out. We may go one way, and then we go, whoa. They don't have it. We got to go back this way. Or, hey, they do have it. So let's step on the gas and really go. Hey, I got another one for you, Brent, since you have all this time. Have you watched Ford versus Ferrari yet?
I have not watched that yet. It's on my list, though.
Ford versus Ferrari. We would like our quarterbacks, okay, to run our offense the way that driver drove the Ford. And the way that he knew that car is the way that we would love for our quarterbacks to know the offense. You're going to get way behind. You don't start catching up, Brent. I love you, brother.
Thank you, Coach.
Next, we'll go to Danny Emmerman from the Daily Orange.
Hey, Dino. Thanks so much for taking the time this morning.
Yes, sir.
As a few college programs across the country have already announced that they're canceling practice on Election Day this November, so their players can vote. Is that something that you would support?
This is what, again, haven't had a chance to talk to the team about it. I can tell you right now, without talking to the team, they're going to have an opportunity to vote. They're going to have an opportunity to help others. Now, I can't tell you on November 3rd in season that we're not going to practice, okay? Because okay, let me ask you this. What day is November 3rd? Is it a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday? I haven't looked. What day is it? We have time. We're in a pandemic. Everybody has time for this. What day is it?
The 3rd is a Tuesday.
A Tuesday. Whew. They're going to have to really get in. They're going to have to get somebody on the team to really twist my arm not to practice on a Tuesday. Now, that doesn't mean we can't move practice where we can get everything done. Watch this. Where the polls close, we can practice after the polls close. But a Tuesday practice during season in November where the games, how do I say it? The games you remember are the ones in November. Everybody at Syracuse should know that one. I would say that I would really like to talk to the guys because I think I would really like to practice and I would really like them to practice with me, but we still need to talk about it first. But we can still get a lot of things done and then from a football coach's standpoint, let the polls close and then have some type of practice on Tuesday if they want to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And John Kikis, you got the last word this morning. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Now you've been a player. Now you've been a coach for a long time. You're a people guy. What's it been like for you personally, not being able to be with your team?
This is the longest I've ever been without young men between the ages of 18 and 22 that absolutely, they may give this movement energy, but they give me energy. And don't get me wrong, I've had some unbelievable quality time at home. With my family, I have a daughter that just graduated. She did her undergrad in the Whitman School. She got her graduate degree in the Newhouse School, and she's about to go off on her new job and goes through a pandemic. And we've had some unbelievable walks around the neighborhood, my last daughter at home, and just conversations with her that would have never had. So I always try to take a negative and turn it into a positive. And it's been really, really cool to have her around and have her take the honesty of golf to a new level as driving me around the golf course saying, did you move that? Well, I did. It's winter rules. That's a stroke. Letting her have the scorecard. But, on that, I want to hit you guys with something else that was kind of really interesting. And this is, you guys are like, oh, I can't believe you talked about this. I can still remember when I first got into coaching, and I've always wanted to be a head coach. Not a black head coach, just a head coach. And my second job at UNLV in 1988, 1989, I got to see a contest between Wayne Nunley, who was our head football coach at UNLV that happened to be black, and Cleve Bryant, who was the head football coach at Ohio University. And it was the first time in Division I that two African-American head football coaches played each other. Now, I don't know if it was 88 or 89 because I am getting older up there, but it was one of those 2 years. And I can still remember later on, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, when the USA Today, you guys know that's a newspaper, some of you guys have to Google that. It was the USA Today newspaper came out with a contest between Temple and Dickerson, who used to be a DB coach at Penn State, versus another coach, and I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember the other coach or the school, and they announced that it was the first game between two African-American coaches in Division I. And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. And I wrote and I called into the USA Today to say their facts were wrong. And I finally got to somebody and they said, well, sir, this is the first one, da-da-da-da. I said, no, your facts are wrong. They're like, our facts are right. We talked to, it was an organization called the BCA. We checked with the BCA, which is the Black Coaches Association, And he says, and they said that this would be the first contest between the two people. And I said, your information's wrong. And they said, well, how can you say that? I said, because I was there. Okay? I know what a black man looks like. I know what a Division I head coach is. And I was on the field and I was a part of the staff. You're wrong. Go back and check this date and this game, and you're wrong. And it's the first time that I ever got one of those things from the newspaper admitting that they're wrong. Okay, that I was right. Now, they didn't do it nationally. You know, it was one of those quiet I was wrongs. But I really thought that was really cool. And there you think about, what is that? That is maybe 12 years ago, 32 years ago, 32 to 31 years ago that happened. And the point I'm trying to make is that we've been in this stuff for a long time, okay? And even though there's progress, you know, things are still moving really slow. And the more that we all, because you can't do it with one person or one side, it needs everybody, okay? And we need to all drop the E so we can just GO. So I'll close with that. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I miss talking to you guys. I hope you guys miss talking to me. All right. Wish you guys a blessed day. Thank you very much.
Coach, if you miss talking to him from CNY Central, didn't get a chance to ask a question. And so can you hang on for one more?
I most certainly can. Anything for our local media.
Thanks, Coach. Matt, go ahead.
Hey, Dino. Last but not least, how you doing?
My guy.
I got the helmet placed right over my shoulder.
I see it. I see it. Someone's taking care. I also see the basketball and the big one in the middle. I see that.
Oh, yeah, you can see that one, right?
I see that one. I got the degrees.
That's the championship poster. Yeah, so, you know, obviously you covered basically everything, but I wanted to ask, I'm sure you've probably seen the everything going on with the roof at the Carrier Dome. Maybe you've driven past it, or maybe you've seen updates online. What are the first things that go through your mind when you see these updates and how this facility is changing before your eyes?
Well, it's really, really cool. I think it's going to be it's already a nice venue. It's going to be even better. And the sooner that we can get through this pandemic and fill that thing up to capacity to do the things that we want it to do for us, you know, I literally can't wait. I'm so thankful that with the Governor Como, that he allowed that work to continue throughout the pandemic. And when we first went, I mean, I've been in my house since the second week of March. You know, you just run out of things to do. But one of the things I did do was go down there and check the progress of that thing from my car or walking around with a mask. And it's going to be awesome. I wish they would give me the temperature control, okay, so I could do what I want with it. I wish that, and I hope that it's as loud or louder than ever before. But when you think about it, we're the only Power Five school with a dome. And, you know, neener, we got one, you don't. And it's a huge advantage for us, and it needs to continue to be a huge advantage for us. And I just know, I have faith. Don't ever let anyone take your faith away. It's no fun walking around without it. I have faith that we will be as loud and as crazy as we have been, and it'll be even better for not only the community and the school, but the alumni and the state of New York. Go Orange, baby.
Great, thank you.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Mike.